Lesley Herring has been missing for weeks, and police still don't know her fate. But they fear the worst at the hands of her husband, Lyle. They ask Lyle to go before TV news cameras to plead for help in finding his missing wife. Cops figure it's an offer he can't refuse. And it will also help shake the trees for witnesses.
If Leslie's out there listening to us, please give us a call, come home, let us know what's going on. I know we have a lot to talk about.
Days later, police meet with Lyle's cousin, Malcolm. He says he talked to Lyle in front of his condo shortly after Lesley disappeared.
Lyle was very distraught. He was saying things that were really off the wall, like he said that he was going to burn in hell for what he did to Lesley. So Malcolm thought, wow, this is really strange. I need to go and see if Lesley's okay. So he thought, well, I'll ask to use the bathroom, you know. And so he asked Lyle, he says, hey, can I use the bathroom? And Lyle said, let me think about that. Nah, I don't think that's just a good idea. And from that point, Malcolm thought, wow, there's something really wrong here. And both bathrooms had numerous towels hanging up on them, and they were dry, but they were very wrinkled as if they were crunched together to sop up a flood or something.
It leads to a possible shocking conclusion about Lesley's fate.
One was really, really badly wet and molded. That's where they believed that he might have drowned her that night. That Saturday night, that night was the last time that Lesley ever a breath of air in her life. That's what they believe, and I believe it too.
If that's true, there's a body somewhere. And then, out of nowhere, a neighbor of Lyle's comes forward with an electrifying story about the night of Lesley's disappearance that leaves cops slack-jawed.
Around midnight, he saw Lyle wheeling a dolly way down the hallway to a far back elevator. And on the dolly was a carpet, which he described rolled up wide enough to contain a body. Lyle had this crazed look on his face. He had a hoodie pulled up, he was sweating, and he didn't even acknowledge the witness.
Hard to believe we are talking about the same guy who was front and center at a vigil for his missing wife. Meanwhile, cops call in some backup. A four-legged detective named Indiana Bones. She's trained to find the scent of human remains. Cops have her check the trunk of Lyle's old Cadillac and in the back of his SUV.
As it turned out, we got a positive hit from the cadaver dog in both of his vehicles.
The cars are parked about 200 yards apart in separate garages at the condominium complex.
Our theory was that after he murdered her, he took her down to his SUV, and then he transferred her body over to an old vintage Cadillac that he owned. Puts her body in there, drives back to his condominium. And once he figures out what he's going to do, he puts the body back into the Mitsubishi and uses the Mitsubishi to discard her body. And that's why we got decomposition hits in both vehicles.
Things are not looking good for Lyle, but cops don't move in on him yet. They still have no body. And without that, they'll need every shred of evidence they can get to make a convincing case for murder.
The hardest part about one of these investigations is proving that she's no longer around.
Leaving no stone unturned, detectives put a tracking device on Lyle's car.
And we did live surveillance and GPS surveillance on Lyle in hopes that maybe he would visit where he may have disposed of the body just to get that warm and fuzzy that everything was okay.
Sure enough, 2 days later, he leads them to a remote area in Griffith Park, less than 3 miles away from his condo at around 6 a.m. in the morning.
Gets out of the car, he walks into this area where there's a couple of dumpsters, walks around there, gets back in his car and drives away.
They call in the expert to have a sniff.
We went out there with Indiana Bones, and we got a positive hit on a dirt mound, which was maybe 15 feet from a dumpster.
Cops get to work digging up the mound. They are only one shovelful of dirt away from cracking this case. But they find nothing. And even the fine work of Indiana Bones only goes so far.
Couldn't confirm that that was her body because it's Griffith Park. There's a lot of bodies that get dumped there. But it seemed to really sync up with everything, that perhaps he backed his Mitsubishi in there, put her body on this dirt mound, and then transferred it to the dumpster. Those dumpsters go to our huge LA dump. And if that's the case, I don't think we'll ever recover her body.
It's a maddening puzzle, missing only one crucial piece. With everything they now know, police are still dead certain that Lyle has done away with his wife.
She was in that carpet, yeah, absolutely.
After 14 months of an exhaustive investigation, police drive over to Lyle's office at Cal State Northridge, and they arrest him.
He was shocked that he was arrested. We told him that something happened to his car, so he'd come outside so it wouldn't be in front of everyone.
Lyle is charged with murder. Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney Sam Hulefeld handles the prosecution. But there's still that one missing element.
The obvious thing that's remarkable about this case is that there was no body. Most murders start and end with a body. And here we had to build a case without one.
Whatever the odds against getting a conviction, the prosecution is absolutely certain of their findings. They can only hope the jury will see things the same way.
Even without Leslie's body in this case, the amount of evidence pointing to Lyle Herring's guilt was overwhelming.
And after a 3-week-long trial, the jury quickly arrives at a verdict. Lyle Herring, guilty of second-degree murder, and is sentenced to 15 years to life in prison.
As far as the evidence being overwhelming, that's actually the comment of the trial judge who presided over the trial after conviction at sentencing.
Lyle went through plenty of effort to cover up his guilt. And, according to Detective Gable, he almost succeeded. In fact, if he had simply stayed home and read a book, Gable says, there's a chance this murder may never have been solved.
He would have been much better off if he did nothing. Then we'd have nothing to go on. It was his cover-ups that really solidified the case.
As for Lesley, she may never be found. But the police and her bereaved family still have hope that Lyle might do the right thing for once.
Finding her remains will be very important, and the only person that can do that is Lyle. Hopefully one day he'll reach out to us and want to tell us where she is.
We still don't believe it. We still cannot believe that this has happened. And the tragedy of this whole thing, we never found her remains. You know, her life impacted us, and she'll always be in our hearts and souls and minds forever, forever, ever, and ever, and ever, and ever.